Yo, it's ODB from OLP. This is Mini Truckin Magazine, issue 143, November 2003. Don't forget, we are your Mini Truckin headquarters. We are closing in on the end of another year, 2003. We've got this issue and, of course, one more. Chad Lucas's Nissan Pathfinder, the 11th Severtized truck to be featured on the cover of Mini Truckin Magazine. Wes Allison's 45th credited cover. The first of 3 total with Rozzi wheels. This is the 23rd Mini Truckin Magazine cover with a Nissan on it, and it's only one of 2 Pathfinders. Of course, the first one was issue 67, July 97. That was the yellow B52 Pathfinder. Now, fun fact, we were at Chad Lucas's house when back in, I have this pulled up here. This was a photo I took from his garage, kind of looking out. It's funny. It kind of reminds me of, for whatever reason, E.T. You know, as a kid, growing up watching E.T., loving the movie. And this was an older post I made. You can see there, it was, we were in town for Rezo. We had went in a little bit early, and Chad was putting the finishing touches on, basically bolting the parts to the rolling chassis to take it to the show. And if I can tab through here, there were, unfortunately, this is when I was promoting the episode that he was on back in this time, which I'm not going to be able to pull it up, I don't think. But let me click here with my mouse. If we go here, unfortunately, back in this time, I didn't have a cell phone with a camera, right? So I had film, and this is one of the photos I took at the show. But you can see the bumper brackets, and I remember even my buddy Russ helping drill the holes in the lower control arms that were chromed to bolt the bag in. So that was many, many moons ago, which is awesome. But I want to jump into this issue, and we'll take a deeper dive. Of course, we got an insert photo up there with an S10, Xtreme Machines. The key thing about this issue is it's a construction zone special. So that's something to keep in mind. The other ironic thing is Chad, shout out to Chad, hopefully he'll see this, the big homie. He does go on to work at the publication. So many of you know that if you've, read the publication, but for those that don't know, certainly he does go on to work at the publication. This month, of course, you see in the TOC, table of contents, long-awaited Nissan Pathfinder, heading to the 3rd Construction Zone special issue. Photo credits Wes Allison, and the model is Mickey, M-I-K-I, I think, twinning. So I wanted to make sure I said that right. You can see here Jamie Jordan's Toyota, which is still in the scene. This awesome RA Mazda, which I saw back in the day at Showfest. Again, I do like the changes that they made to the table of contents. I think it streamlined it a good bit. Time to travel. Lance says, no, it's not Christmas. It's still July, for crying out loud. Of course, tying in the busy travel schedule that you could imagine an editor back in those days would have for a magazine that you have to be boots on the ground, right? You have to, show coverage and things like that. I'm curious on how much things have changed nowadays, I guess. Brendan Burrell, of course, at the helm of Street Trucks. I do know that he travels a good bit, but I wonder, if it's as much as what the guys used to have to do. Here you can see Acrophobia. Kind of cool little peek into their old website, if that was a screenshot. And then IF Customs, of course, we spent many a days there. Chad, of course, on the cover, we've had him on the podcast, but we also had Carrie from IF Customs a couple of times on, but one main title episode. Shout out to Carrie, good dude. Here is Nelson Zapata, Z-A-P-A-T-A, and Brian Frost wrote it. Of course, Lance shot it, which I believe this was at Showfest, I would assume, based upon the gravel and knowing that they just ran 03 Showfest. I remember seeing this truck there. I took photos, and we have, I think, video of it that I've shared. A couple things I really like about this one is I do like the front corner shaved, and I think the grill fits really nicely. The graphics, of course, are awesome. This was a Texas truck, a 93 Mazda B 2200. a lot going on. I believe that he said that he's sold this one. I've tagged him before on Facebook, Instagram. The other key thing is, all the graphics on the, the door panel, having the graphics there being smooth, regular cab with the stereo behind the seat. Of course, you could see an RA member there with a logo on the back window. This was an era when these cross members in the back were done. A lot of guys, were doing this says Locomotive in Houston. I know Extensive was doing them as well. There were a bunch of guys kind of pushing the boundaries and doing some kind of cool stuff like that. Also, you can see he's running a nitrogen bottle. I know Extensive sold those bottle, well, maybe not those exact ones, but they were the leader in selling those, if I recall correctly. I had them in my Suburban. But even the engine bay, a little bit different with the panels in there, some chrome, some paint. Super nice truck. Now, I tend to get this one confused. I want to say this truck was one of the trucks on the group cover photo, I think from Texas, I believe, with Duck's Nissan. I want to say that I've seen that one in there, or maybe it was another of the group photos. You guys could chime in, but I haven't been able to fully verify that. Super nice feature, of course, and I remember seeing the truck at Showfest. If you like what we're doing here, please leave a comment, even if it's just an emoji. And check us out through any podcast app. You can see Sound Napoli, the Cab Plus Mazda there. Properly grounded, so Slam Jam VIII. Nice show coverage, bigger photos, color, of course. That looks like berries. Maybe it's not. I know his was similar color. I know every time I say that, people, if it's not berries, are probably thinking, they're not all berries from Georgia, severed. But that's what it reminds me of. D number 2E, this was Down to Earth Customs, not to be confused with DTE from Down to Earth, California, the club. Of course, they've expanded out now. Shout out to Jeff Goddard. He's up in the Northeast, one of the newer members of DTE that's been around since, the late 80s. Smooth Rebel. So this is another one that probably was shot at Showfest. Jamie Jordan. You guys know that name more than likely. This was the 94 Toyota Extra Cab, and believe it or not, this is the same truck that Waka owns. So this truck went on. I remember seeing it when it got redone, and it had some sick interior, which it still has. We saw it at Showfest back in maybe 2014. And that was the second life, if you will, of this truck. And Waka owns it now. Of course, it looks a little bit different. Probably not the first one, but this is one that I remember, seeing the white wall tires, seeing the smoothie hubcaps, how he did the Iron Cross deal on there. It had the moon eyes, which you can't really see it, I guess, in these photos. It had the moon eyes rear view mirror that was painted like a surfboard. You can barely see the mirror there. It was pretty cool how the compressor and tanks were mounted. The whole engine bay all done, super clean, a lot of red. And if we jump back over here, you can kind of see what I'm talking about there behind or underneath the NC logo. But it also had the billet mirrors. Again, if you guys were running those. But just a super stylish truck. And what's pretty cool is still around. On its, second or third life, if you will. A couple different versions of it, but Jamie Jordan built a cool truck, and obviously some other guys have put their spin on it. We're going to keep on keeping on here. We got Freakfest, the world's last old school truck run. And you can see this clean S10. You can see there what looks to be like the mold from the Cal Concepts, various dashes that they had, including Last Look and some of those trucks. The Toyota, the Mazda. A lot of words, I would say nowadays you see it on websites where you go to read an article and there's 3 bullet points on top to kind of summarize. I think people read less and less in terms of, magazines. unless you're really into a certain topic. But certainly I think like nowadays it would be a lot of photos. That's what we saw, even with All Time Low when they were a publication. There's Joe Millionaire's Yoda. You know, you would see a lot of show coverage. The key thing is, you know, you would want people to see their ride in there and say, oh man, I'm going to go buy it, or I'm going to buy 2 issues. I remember seeing this S10 in show coverage. Again, if you like what we're doing here, check us out via any podcast app. In 2023, we are bi-weekly. So, Severed SUV by Lance, photography Wes Allison, as I mentioned, and then Mickey Twinning is her name. An excessive compulsive gone wild. It was cool. I met Chad years ago, even before this. He was working at a company and he came in town for spring break Nats in Daytona, and my buddy Russ and I went over there and hung out with Chad. And you know, this was in an era when everybody was trying to one up each other, and not saying that that still doesn't happen, but you know, we had extensive conversations about, no, I'm doing this, I'm smoothing this, the floors are going to be smooth, you know, this is going to be done, chrome this, chrome that, deburr the block, you know, just the craziest amount of, you know, just an insane engine. And that's what, you know, Chad was really pushing the limits back then. You know, he had teamed up with Grant. He was real good friends with Bob Grant, probably still is, but you know, you could just see like how the metal work. I mean, guys were doing this stuff, but maybe not to this level in the mini truck scene, like all the stuff with the smooth floors. And you know, you'd see some of this on some builds. I'm not going to say it was the first, but you know, like look at where this area would have been covered, and then you'd be able to see all the frame, all the detail. I think Grant did the frame too, and again, it had come back from paint powder coat around the time we were there that December, and just so much work had went into this thing. And I guess, you know, it was maybe plagued with, hey, it got a cover, and then you go, well, why do you really need to finish it? But unfortunately, it has bounced around a good bit. You know, even back in the Street Source days, it did. But you know, a few guys have gotten their hands on it over the years, and they're talking about, you know, they're gonna finish it, and it just, I don't think it's ever been finished. I don't know who has it right now, but certainly this is one that I had, and I still have several issues of this mag. But I remember having this. I had pulled this out, and I had it in a thing where I had put some severed type things, and this was one. Typically, I never took out the center fold, if you will, of Mini Truckin magazine, but luckily this one is perfect, intact, and you can just see what a truck. And again, Chad goes on to work for the publication. He really was pushing the limits in that era, and it's truly just an insane build. It was really cool to see. You can find Chad Lucas. I don't know if he's got a public profile on Instagram, but you can look back at all the photos we've tagged him in. Craig Frazier, I think he had forgotten that he did the rendering, which you saw earlier. I popped up for a second, scanning through some Instagram photos, but you know, some of that stuff has been tagged with Chad, and he got a lot of accolades for that Pathfinder, including the cover. So it was pretty damn cool to see. Construction Zone Special, again, keeping the theme. We got Shaun Bowker, Bowker. We saw a sneak peek of this earlier, I think, in the table of contents. And then Billy Hughes 93 from Excessive. And you can see several really nice Forerunners over the years built. This is a super sick one back in that era. Love the wheels. Love the fuel filler up there. A couple guys have done some crazy stuff like that over the years, but pretty cool stuff. And then we've got color with Construction Zone, so pretty cool. Again, if you have intel on any of the content that we are sharing here, be sure to comment below. This was Lewis Stallings 90. Well, they have that wrong, and maybe more could be wrong. It does say up here 92 Mazda Navajo, but it says down here Ford Ranger suspension, so I don't know what's going on here, but I think we could agree that's a Ford Explorer. And funny enough, although this platform wasn't one that was highly adopted by mini truckers, Mike Hill won the Truck of the Year through Street Trucks just a couple years ago, and his is one of those trucks, a two-door. We joke and call it a Blazer because it's got an LS engine, but it's an awesome truck. Chris Plemons, 86 S10 Blazer. And this one you can see kind of special. It is a 2-pager, so kind of rare, but obviously a construction zone. And you can see here MTC zone, kind of short. Got the Lambo doors, front tilt hood. Here's old school construction zone, Rich. And I don't want to mess up his last name. Pretty cool. Nissan 85. Then you got black and white here. This is Flan 88 Mazda. V2200 crew cabs on the rise. I guess technically it's a cab plus. And definitely extended, as you can imagine. That's the cool thing I loved about the construction zone, and just even seeing trucks still under construction at shows, like seeing the effort that people put in. There's so many awesome mods out there, a lot of work that goes into these trucks. And I always kind of love seeing them in that unfinished deal. So Xtreme Bash, you got this Nissan hardbody of the era that also had, like Jimmy's, it had the front end conversion done to the Frontier. This S10, I remember seeing this in Tampa. That thing was super clean. I think he was Acro, I think. And I remember seeing that truck, and he would tear up wherever he would go in terms of awards. And I think he had put it away a while. But there's a lot of cool trucks out there. And then this Mazda was always awesome. Looks like Subculture logo. And then there's an S10 with a shaved body line. Pretty cool to look back 20 years ago. There's the S10 again. And see the styles and the trends. Here's the Ranger I was talking about. Wicked Customs, I think it was. And there's the Mitsubishi, I think it is. Cab Plus with ground effects, and then another Cab Plus. What do you think the most popular mini truck of all time has been? Is it a Mazda? Is it a Nissan? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Air Control from Dakota Digital. And they still make a ton of products. They also still make, I think they still make and sell it, which I don't know how, I only knew a few people that ever had this, but it was pretty cool. It would show the pressure. And of course now with AccuAir and Airlift and those type of products, I guess you could argue that you really wouldn't need it if you had those levelers, so to speak, or that, the 4-corner deals. But it was always cool to me still to see the pressure. I always loved having the dual needle gauge. I mean, it was simple. I'd get in my burb when I had that set up, and it was just easy. Here's Bobby Stewart, 94 GMC Sonoma, super clean. And a couple things that stand out to me is the paint super clean on this thing. Wheels weren't too crazy in terms of size. The taillights in the roll pan look awesome. And I even dig this the little wing deal on the back. I know it's not a wing, but spoiler, whatever you want to call it. It looks like the interior is super clean. Simple on the engine bay. Real nice. We're going to keep on keeping on with these. We have passed, as you guys know, the halfway mark recently, so we're going to try to get through all of these issues. And then I got a debate on them. Am I going to keep this going with the magazine coming back? Sal Napoli again. There's we've seen that a couple of times in the different insert images. The Cab Plus, topless, Mazda, Sal, previous guest, true OG. Now you would look through this and you'd scratch your head and go, man, are we all color now? You guys did see, especially in Construction Zone, a few pages still black and white, so we're still not all color yet. The WhatsApp, it may not be a circle anymore, but it's the same photo. Background image. One day I'll stop talking about that. And we got Graffiti. And there you go. There's the 4Runner we saw earlier. There's the Explorer Max Springs. Little shout out to those guys there. So you can imagine this might be, one of those things they kind of put together at the very end, and you're trying to meet a deadline, and you just go throw some more images in there that we put in the magazine. Keep it simple. But huge shout out to Chad Lucas. Severed Ties, one of my brothers, the 11th Severed Ties truck to be featured on the cover. And just a truly amazing truck. I do wish that it was finished, but I appreciate this one still for what it is. It really was pushing the boundaries. I remember my buddy Russ and I at the time, talking about it, and just, it was pushing us to want to do more on our trucks and, graft on this and do that. Oh, by the way, it does have the newer front end on it as well. So you can also see the Severed logo right there, kind of behind the construction zone. So that was not edited out. But super hot model, super hot issue. Chad Lucas, the man, the myth, the legend. What up, brother? You guys take care. Stay on the rise, or we're going to keep on keeping on. Share this if you can. Leave a thumbs up if nothing else. And stay on the rise. We are chia. Peace.